Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing good, and today I am here with a video series on class 6 science, food. Where does it come from? So this is our first lesson of class 6 science, and with this we are going to start our study for the academic year 2020-2021, and I wish you guys all the very best for the new beginning. So what are we going to cover in this lesson? As we all know, food is a very critical part of our life. We cannot survive without food. In fact, none of the living organisms would be able to survive without food. So if we talk of our food, so from where do they come? So we are going to talk about the ingredients of food. What are the different ways in which we classify organisms based on their different food habits, and also sources as well as variety of food. So let's get started.
So food is a very common term for each one of us. We eat food, and why do we eat food? To survive, in simple words. So how would you define food if I ask you? So it would be anything that organisms eat or drink for their survival. So these organisms could be human beings, it could be some other animals. So when you talk about organisms, it could be human beings, it could be animals like rabbit, cat, even birds, cows. So every organism, every living organism, they need food, they need to eat something. So whatever we eat or drink, whether it is pizza or burger or rice or cold drink, whatever we eat or drink, everything falls under the category of food. So here in this lesson, we are going to talk about where do we get our food from. So we might eat burger, which has a lot of stuffs in it. It has cheese, it has veggies, it has bread, it has a lot of stuff, it has sauce. So from where exactly are we getting all these things? So we will look in detail about on the sources of food. So to start with, we got to know that food is anything that we eat. We refers to all living organisms, not only human beings. Now, what exactly do we eat? So now, in the beginning of this lesson, we will consider human beings because we all can relate to ourselves more. We can relate to what we eat. So if I ask you that what are the things that you normally eat? So you might say vegetables, fruits, milk. Those who are non-vegetarian might say fish, meat, egg. Right? So there is actually a huge variety of things which we eat in our day-to-day life. We eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, there is a huge variety in that itself. So when it comes to fruits, it could be apple, banana, oranges, grapes, pomegranate. It could be pineapple, mango, lychee. So huge variety of fruits. When it comes to vegetables, again it could be cauliflower, cabbage, potato, onion, carrot, radish, ladyfinger. So again a huge variety of vegetables, and with the help of these fruits and vegetables we prepare a lot of dishes as well. Those who eat non-veg, that is food which is obtained from other animals, they also consume fish, meat, egg, some of our basic food items like rice or roti or chapati, bread. So all of these are obtained from rice, wheat, flour. So these are like the basic things. We do not eat curry alone. We do not eat the vegetables alone. We eat it with something else like rice or chapati or bread. Again, we might have food like sandwiches, burgers, pizzas, French fries, cold drinks. So these are also food items. Again, you can have dairy products like milk, cheese, paneer, curd, yogurt. So these are all products which are obtained from milk. So these milk products could also be the items that you eat. So when it comes to food, or when it comes to what we eat, there is actually a huge variety of food that we eat. Now, from where do we get each of these foods? So if I ask you, from where do you get a sandwich? You might say that, okay, I get a sandwich from my mom. My mom prepares a sandwich for me. Okay, but from where does your mom get all the ingredients to prepare a sandwich? Then you might say that, okay, my mom generally goes to the market and she gets the vegetables, she gets the cheese, she gets the bread, and that's how she prepares it. But from where do these ingredients come to the shops? So we are going to look at it in a deeper way, that from where exactly all these food items are coming and how are they reaching us. The question is, why do we need food? Why are we eating so much of food? So this huge variety which you see, that's because food is required for the survival of the entire population. So if you talk about any living organism, whether it is human being or it is an insect, a tiny insect, all of them need food. Without food, they would die. They would not be able to survive. There comes the basic question, why we need food. Now, as I said, that food provides nutrients. Now, what are nutrients? So, nutrients are those substances which provide nourishment needed for growth and maintenance of life. Now, when we were born, so when even you were born, so do you think that you were this big as you are today? No, you were very tiny. A tiny little kid was born with tiny hands, tiny fingers, tiny face, and everything so tiny. But when you look at yourself today, what do you see? You see that you are quite grown up. Your height has increased, your weight has increased, your overall body structure has developed. So you have become more intelligent, you have become more matured. So basically what's happening? So as you are growing, with time you are growing, you are development. So growth and development is taking place within your body. Now, in order for that growth and development to take place, some energy needs to be provided to the body. So when you are increasing in height, so that increase in height is actually a process that is taking place inside your body. So for that process to take place inside your body, what you need? You need some energy. So have you seen those television ads which come for a lot of health drinks, like mostly for Complan, it is very popular, when they say that if you drink Complan, you will be taller. So why do they say that? Because what they try to say is that the health drink has so much of nutrients, that those nutrients which will help your body to grow faster. So basically whatever we eat, whether they are fruits or vegetables or cereals or anything, so all of them have some or the other nutrients, and these nutrients, they provide all the energy to our body that is required for growth and development of the body. So that is why you have seen that your parents often tell you to eat on time, to eat properly, because if you skip your meals, if you do not eat properly, you will tend to become weaker. Your growth will not happen in the right way. So a lot of food items. Now, different food items again are rich in different nutrients, because our body doesn't need only one kind of nutrients. There are many types of nutrients which are required by our body. And different food items are rich in different nutrients. So if you talk about milk, so milk might be rich in calcium, and calcium is needed to keep the bones of our body strong. Again, if you talk about, say, fish might be rich in proteins, and proteins are very much needed for all the metabolic activities of our body, because at the end of the day, our body is composed of nothing but these proteins. So proteins are extremely important. If you talk about different food items, you will see that each of those items are rich in a specific nutrient. So when we eat all of them, so now what would happen if you eat only milk every day? So you are not eating anything else, no vegetables, no cereals, nothing else, only milk all the time. So if you keep drinking only milk all the time, every day, what would happen? Your body might have too much of calcium, but then your body would lack proteins, vitamins, carbohydrates, fats. So a lot of nutrients will go missing inside your body. So that is why it is very important that we eat different types of food in desired amounts, in required amounts. So let us quickly have a look at some of the food items which are rich in different nutrients. So let's look at some of these items. For example, so when you talk about milk is a very rich source of calcium, and calcium is important to keep your bones strong. Now you would have often seen elderly people complaining when they are, say, 50 years old or 60 years old, they often complain that, you know, their legs are aching, they have pain in their hands and legs, and it is difficult for them to walk. And when they visit a doctor, the doctor says that the calcium level inside her or his body is very low. So why did that happen? Maybe because that elderly person would have not consumed milk in right amounts since her youth. So it is very important to consume milk because this will keep your bones and teeth strong. Let's talk about something like fish. A lot of people consume fish. So fish is a very rich source of proteins, and if you have a lot of proteins in your body, that helps in the different types of repair inside your body, tissue repair or metabolic activities of the body. So all those things are supported by the presence of proteins. Now, it is not that only fish has proteins. There are a lot of food items which are rich in proteins. Like pulses are also very rich in proteins. The soya beans are very rich in proteins. You talk about bread, whether it is bread or roti, chapati, wheat, flour, whatever form it is. So all of them are rich in carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are basic need for your body because carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and all these things are needed by your body to perform the various metabolic activities, without which your body would not exist, because we are living organisms. So inside our body a lot of work is happening all the time. So even though you feel that, okay, I am sitting idle, I am not doing anything. So maybe that you are not doing anything, but the processes inside your body is still working. So even when you are sleeping at night, you are still breathing. So the processes involved in this entire phenomenon of breathing is happening inside your body. Your heart is still beating. So that entire process of heartbeat is happening inside your body, and all of these processes need some energy to perform, and that energy is provided by these various nutrients. You talk about the varieties of fruits. They are very rich source of minerals. Now, if there is deficiency of minerals inside your body, so you might suffer from different diseases. Talk about items like butter, ghee. So they are rich source of fats. So consuming fats in excess amounts is obviously not very good, because that tends to cause overweight and the person becomes obese, and if you are overweight you tend to get a lot more diseases. So you are more vulnerable to diseases than others. So fat should always be consumed in the right amount. Something like spinach or the green vegetables. Green leafy vegetables are a rich source of vitamins. So you see, different food items in our diet, they are rich in different nutrients, and that is why we eat a mix of all of them. So we eat some amount of rice, we eat some amount of vegetables, we eat some amount of fruit, some amount of milk, so that our body gets all the different types of nutrients and body stays healthy. So this food that we consume, it gives us energy. So whatever we do, let's say you do exercise, what happens when you exercise for quite some time? So let's say when you start exercising, you feel fit, you feel good, you exercise for 1 hour, 1 complete hour. How do you feel? You tend to feel a little tired. You continue to exercise for 3 continuous hours. How do you feel? Feel very tired. So gradually what happens, you start feeling extremely tired, and then you become so tired that you cannot continue it anymore. So why does that happen? Because as you do exercise, energy is being wasted. So if some energy is being spent from your body. So as you keep on doing more and more exercise, more and more energy is being spent. So a time reaches when there is no more energy inside your body. So you are completely exhausted, you are completely tired. Now what will you do to get back some energy to your body? So you eat food. So as soon as you eat food, again you get some energy. So it is not only about doing exercise, you do anything. For example, this guy is cutting a tree. Even that needs effort. So some energy is being spent behind that. When you go for a jog or a morning walk, so when you do it for quite some time, you tend to feel tired, you tend to feel sweaty, because a lot of energy is being spent, and this energy comes from the food that you had eaten before. Even the mental activities, for example, you are sitting in your study table, you are not doing anything, not moving around, no physical activity, but you are thinking. So maybe you are studying, so it is like a mental pressure. So that something is happening inside your mind, inside your brain. So for that also your body needs energy. So if you have not eaten anything for say last 2 days, so you are extremely hungry. So the parts of your body will also not function properly because they will not be able to get the energy that is needed for their performance. So in that case, so when you are hungry, have you ever observed that you are not able to concentrate much in your studies because your brain doesn't work that much when you are hungry, when you do not have that energy in your body. Even when you sleep, so that time the energy requirement of your body is comparatively lesser, but yes, the requirement is still there. That's because so many processes inside our body are still running. The circulatory system of our body, blood is still running from one part of our body to the other. Our heartbeat is still pumping blood. We are still breathing. So many things are still happening even when we are sleeping. So that time also some energy is already being spent. When you are studying, as I said, so that time also so your brain is working, so some processes inside your body is working, so even that needs energy. So here you saw that for doing any kind of activity, whether it is a physical activity or it is a mental activity, for everything you need energy. So that is why you would have observed that if you have not eaten anything for a complete day, let's say you are on fast. So fast is something very common, which is, at least it is a common thing in India. So when you fast, what happens? You do not eat anything. Now by the end of the day, how do you feel? You feel very tired, you don't feel like doing anything, you do not feel energetic at all. That's because since you have not eaten anything since long time, so your body has not received any energy. And since you don't have energy, so you cannot, you don't feel like doing any work. So that's the importance of food. So without food, so basically if you do not eat for a couple of days or maybe for a huge number of days, what would happen at the end? You will keep on feeling weaker and weaker, and finally a time might come when you might not be able to move also because your body will not have even that much energy. So when we talk about food, it is very important to talk about the variety of food that we see. So if you have ever observed that, let's say you are 3 friends, so do you think that all of you have the same item in your lunch box? Not really. Maybe one of you have a bowl of rice, the other one has a burger, and the third one has a bunch of French fries. So basically all of you have different food items to eat. And why do you have different items? Because there is a huge variety of food available to us. So everybody, as per their own taste, as per their own convenience, they eat different types of food. Now the variety of food which are available for people, that also depends on a lot of different factors. For example, different people have different food habits. So people inhabiting different regions eat different foods depending on the climate of that area, depending on the availability of food. So there are a lot of factors which are also dependent on the location. So that is why people in different locations generally have different food habits. So if you see in India, we have a lot of people who eat, especially in the northern parts of India, people prefer to eat roti, rice and the curries. But when you go to the southern parts of India, they also eat these kind of rice items like idli, dosa. So these are all staple food for these people. But if you go to the western countries, they also have a slightly different food habit. So they eat burger, pizza, breads. So, depending on locations, you might have different variety of food. But what we are concerned about is not only the food which we eat, but the ingredients of which the food is made up of. So when we talk about idli, it is made up of rice, urad dal. When we talk about chapati, it is made up of wheat flour. When we talk about a curry, it is made up of vegetables, spices, salt. So different food items are made up of different ingredients. So when we look at the huge variety of food. So some of the most common food, like which are used as staple food, like rice, roti, idli, dosa. So these are all like quite simple compositions. So they are all either made up of rice grains, or made up of wheat, or made up of rice mixed with a pulse. Again, when you talk about items like burger or french fries or cheese, yogurt, these are all milk products. Both of them are obtained from milk, just that the process of their preparation are a little different, and that is why we get different products. You talk about juices which are obtained from fruits and vegetables. Talk about items like chicken which are obtained from animals. So you see, when you look at the variety of food, you see that all of them are obtained from different sources. Some of them are obtained from plants, some of them are obtained from animals. Now when we go one step deeper, that is, now we are not looking at the food item, we are not looking at whether it is a pizza or a burger or a fried rice. What we are looking at is, what is that food made up of? What is the fried rice made up of? What is the pizza made up of? So now we are talking about the ingredients. So here, if you talk about these items like rice, idli, dosa or chapati. So each of these items, now I am talking about their ingredients. So when I talk about their ingredients, so what would be the ingredients for boiled rice? So how do we prepare boiled rice? We take rice grains and we take some water. We boil it, and that's how we get boiled rice. If you talk about idli or dosa, so for them all we need is some rice, some urad dal, some amount of water, and maybe for dosa a little bit of oil. So that's how you get idli or dosa. When you talk about chapati or roti, so there you need flour, maybe wheat flour or maida, whatever. You need some water. So again, this gives you, and then you bake it on the oven. So again, that gives you the chapati. So here in all of these items, you saw that the ingredients are quite simple. You just need one or two things, and that's it. You're able to prepare these food items. However, a lot of food items have multiple ingredients, like quite complex composition. You need a lot of things to prepare them. So let's have a look at some of those type of food items. So here you see fried rice here, and here you see a vegetable curry. So in both of these, you don't need just one or two things. You need a lot of things. So if you want to prepare a fried rice, so for that you would need vegetables, because you have cut the vegetables and put them. So you need a lot of vegetables. You also need some amount of oil. You need rice, of course you need rice. And you also need spices, like you might need haldi, you might need coriander powder. So there are a variety of spices, especially in India. There are a lot of spices which are being used during cooking. So the food items have a lot of spices. You need salt. So all of these ingredients mixed together in right amounts will result in the formation of fried rice or even the vegetable curry. So here you don't need one or two things, you needed a lot of things. And each of these ingredients, whether you talk about the rice or you talk about the oil, you talk about the spices or the vegetables, these are the things which act as nutrients, which give us nutrients which we need to get energy for our survival. So these rice would give us carbohydrates, these vegetables would give us minerals and vitamins, this oil might give us some fat. So that way all these ingredients are the one which actually give us the nutrients that we need. And now you might ask, then why do we cook them? Why don't we eat them raw? Why don't we drink a glass of oil? Why don't I simply chew a carrot and I don't cook it? So why we do this is just to improvise the taste, because we have taste buds. So we want the food to be tasty, and for that purpose we boil them, we fry them, we add spices to make it more tasty, and that's the entire purpose of cooking. Okay, so here we reached till the level of ingredients. So now the next question is, from where do we get these ingredients of food? So from where do we get the spices? From where do we get the vegetables? From where do we get the rice grains? From where do we get the pulses? So all these things which we have used in making the food items. So from where do we get these items? Because we know that how the food is prepared in our kitchen. Our parents or we ourselves will prepare the food. But to prepare that food, we need some ingredients like these. So from where do we get those ingredients? So that's the next agenda now. So if you try to look at the sources, the main source from which we receive food, you will see that all food ingredients are obtained from either of these two sources, plants or animals. So either they are obtained from plants. For example, you talk about the vegetables, you talk about the fruits, you talk about the cereals. So all of them are obtained from plants. On the other hand, you think of meat, you think of egg, think of milk. All of these are obtained from animals. So basically, all types of food ingredients are either obtained from plants or from animals. So let us look at both the sources of food one by one. So we will start with plants. So I think with this you got to know that why do we cultivate crops? Why do we have something called agriculture? So when you, especially in the urban areas, you don't get to see it much. But if you go to the villages, you get to see huge stretch of land where crops are being cultivated. You get to see long stretches of paddy fields. So why do we have them? Because we need food. So let's talk about crop cultivation. So what is crop cultivation? I mean, before that, how do we define a crop? What is crop? So crop is a plant that is grown on a large scale commercially. So a plant which we grow in our garden, maybe in a small area, we are just growing one tomato plant. So then we call it a plant. But when we grow, say, 10,000 of tomato plants in a huge stretch of land, we do not call it a plant anymore. We call it a crop. So crop is always like huge number of plants which are grown on a large scale commercially, for commercial purpose. Obviously, if I am planting 10,000 tomato plants, that is definitely not for my individual use, right? So that is definitely because I want to sell them. So that's for a commercial purpose. So when so many of plants are being grown on a large scale, that is when we call it as a crop. Okay, now why do we cultivate crops? Because everybody needs food. All human beings need food. All animals need food. Every living organism needs food. So we need to grow huge number of plants, and that is where we talk about crop cultivation. So we also talk about crop yield, that means how much is the production of crop. We talk about crop production practices. How can we improve the production of crops? How can we increase the production of crops? We also talk about crop improvement. How can we improve the quality of crops? Because these are the crops which are actually going to provide nutrients to our body. So we need to ensure that the quality is maintained, right? Okay, so this is from where we get the fruits and vegetables and cereals, whatever we eat in our diet. Now the question is, okay, so we get all of these from plants. So which part of a plant do we eat? Because when we look at a plant has fruits, it has flowers, it also has seeds, it has roots, stem, leaves. So there are so many different parts of the plant. You have the roots which are under the ground, you have the stem, the branches, these are the branches, this is like the main stem, you have flowers, you have fruits, you also have seeds, and seeds are present somewhere inside the fruits. And what are seeds? Seeds are those parts which are capable of giving rise to a new plant. So you would have often seen in your garden that when you want to grow a new plant, you often make use of seeds, and you put the seeds under the soil, and then gradually a new plant comes up. So these are all various parts of the plant. Now the question is, when we receive our food items from plants, so which part of the plant are we actually eating? Is it the fruit, or is it the seed, or the root, or the stem? So now we will look at various examples of food items which we receive from plants, and we will see which part of the plant is that particular food item. So let's look at different types of crops. We'll start with pulses. So pulses are like, there are many varieties of pulses which are grown. For example, you have gram, you have pea, black gram, green gram, lentils. So all of them are like, look-wise they are different, taste-wise also they are different. So as you can see in the picture, and I'm sure you are familiar with many of these, or in fact all of these. So these are all different types of pulses. Now, do you know from where do we get these pulses? Obviously from plants, but which part of the plant are these pulses? So these pulses are nothing but the seeds. So they are the seed grains. So the seeds are actually these pulses. So that means indirectly I am trying to say that these pulses are capable of giving rise to a new plant. Yes, if suitable conditions are made available to them, they can definitely give rise to a new plant, because they are nothing but the seeds. You think of the cereals like rice, wheat, maize, millets. So what are these? So they form as our staple food, like they form the rice which we eat, boiled rice, fried rice. The chapatis are prepared from the wheat flour, the corn of which we make a lot of different things. These are all obtained from these plants. So what are these? Again, if you look at the rice grains, you look at the grains of wheat, what are they? These are also nothing but seeds. But the only difference is that when you look at the plants of rice or wheat or maize, you see that they really do not look like the other plants which we normally have in our gardens. The difference is that these plants, all the cereals, their plants look like grasses. They are like grasses. So these are like seeds of grasses, you can say, rather than plants. But basically these are also seeds. Then you talk about oil seeds. So from where do we get oil? So we talk about different types of oil. We talk about sunflower oil, we talk about sesame oil, talk about olive oil, talk about mustard oil. So what are these? All these oil, different types of oil, they are all obtained from different types of seeds. Whether you talk about groundnut or castor or soya bean, sesame, linseed, they are all different types of seeds, and these seeds have that speciality that you can extract oil from them. So oil is present within these seeds. So oil can be extracted by putting these parts of the plant under pressure, which squeezes out the oil from them. So that's how we get the sesame oil, soya oil, castor oil, groundnut oil, mustard oil, and so on. So these are also nothing but seeds. It is just that these seeds have oil within them, and that's where from which we extract that oil. So you see so many different varieties of, we prepare so many different varieties of stuffs using the various cereals and the pulses, but basically they are all seeds of different plants. Not only these, you talk about the vegetables and fruits. Obviously there is a huge variety of vegetables and fruits available, and we will also talk about them a little later, that which vegetable is which part of the plant. So now we have been talking about the oil seeds, pulses and the cereals, and we saw that all of them are nothing but the seeds of the plant. Now a simple question might arise in your mind that, okay, when you say that all the pulses that is there in my house, they are all seeds and they can give rise to a new plant, that's like quite hard to believe that that can give rise to a new plant altogether. So if you don't trust me, so let's do this. So let's see how seeds can give rise to a new plant. So all you need to do is you take some seeds, dry enough, clean and dry seeds. So you can take the moong seeds, or you can also take chana, which we call, so here what you see is nothing but a moong. So the whole moong seeds, okay. So when you take them in a bowl, right now it is completely dry, and then what we do? So our aim here is to prove that these pulses that we eat are seeds and they can give rise to new plants. So here I have to prove that from these seeds you can get new plants. So what we will have to do is we add some water in good quantity to this container where we have the seeds. Now please remember that water should be added in good quantity, and then you leave it overnight, just like that, overnight, or in fact for a complete day, just like that. So just have the seeds in a bowl, pour a lot of water, just leave it undisturbed. Then the next day, you drain the water completely, take out the water completely, and then wrap the seeds in a piece of cloth and keep aside. So here how you see it in the picture. So pack it in a piece of cloth, either keep it hanging or keep it aside. And then again you leave it for one day. And you know the next day what will you see? Magic happens. You will observe some white stem-like structures, very tiny, thin structures. So as you can see here, so you see the green color seeds, these are the same seeds which you see here. But now along with the seeds you have a white tail-like structures. You see these white tail-like things? So what are these white structures? So they came up on their own, right? So when you see these structures, that is when we say that the seeds have sprouted. So this shows that earlier it was only the seed, now from the seed it has given rise to the entire stem, and gradually, now if you take proper care of this, if you put it in the soil, keep watering it, and if it gets all that which is needed for its growth, it will gradually grow into a new plant altogether. However, when we sprout these kind of seeds, the consumption of these sprout seeds are very healthy. So many a times these type of sprout seeds are used as a snack item. So that's one thing. But you can do this at your home to prove it to yourself that these pulses which we eat, they are nothing but seeds and they can give rise to new plant. So do not try it out with any other seed, because not every seed has the capability to sprout. But at least if you try it out with chana or with moong, you will definitely experience this. Now, when you look at it from the perspective of seed germination, that how a seed gives rise to a new plant altogether. So in the first picture you see it was just a pulse before, which was nothing but a seed, and then the seed gradually gave rise to this small tail which I was talking about in the previous slide. And when you put it in the soil and suitable conditions are made available, it gives rise to a new plant. And this entire process is called germination, where a seed grows to form a seedling, which is like a small plant, and then the seedling gradually grows to become a plant. Now it is very necessary that for germination to take place, conditions, environmental conditions have to be favorable. So germination will happen only under favorable conditions. So this shows that, okay, so the cereals or the oil seeds or the pulses, they are all seeds. Now let's come back to vegetables and fruits. So again, we eat a huge variety of vegetables and fruits. So you might be curious to know which part of the plant is that particular vegetable or fruit. So let's talk about each vegetable one by one. So we start with onion. So what do you think onion is? Is it a fruit of a plant, or a stem, or a root, or which part of the plant is onion? So you might be surprised to know that onion is a root of the plant. It is basically the root. So if you have ever seen the onion plant, you would see that the onion remains under the ground and above the ground is the stem. So we basically eat the root. Talk about beet. So beet again is the root of the plant. So this also remains below the ground. Talk about brinjal. What do you think is brinjal? So brinjal is not under the ground, brinjal is above the ground, and brinjal is actually a fruit of a plant. Think of capsicum. Capsicum again is a fruit of the plant. Capsicum is like a kind of chili. Peas. What are peas? So the part of the peas which we eat, that is basically the seeds. What we eat are the seeds. Think of cabbage. Can you guess which part of the plant is cabbage? So what do you have in the cabbage? All you can see are nothing but leaves. It is like layers of leaves and leaves. Because cabbage is nothing but, these are the leaves of the plant. Potato. Potato again is a stem of the plant, which is again very hard to believe that how can potato be a stem? It looks like a fruit or something. So how can it be stem? And the interesting part about potato is that if you have ever observed a potato plant, you would have seen that the potato is always under the ground. So a lot of people presume that since it is under the ground, so it has to be root. But that is not necessary. So potato is a special case which has an underground stem. Now, how do we prove that a potato is a stem? So normally when you look at any plant, which part is the stem? So that part which is above the ground, and that part which holds the buds and flowers and fruits. So that's the stem. So when you look at potato, you would have seen that there are marks on potatoes, like tiny dot-like structures, which are called eyes of potatoes. And these eyes of potatoes are actually the buds on potatoes, which will later form flowers. So if you have ever observed that if you keep a potato for a very, very long time, you would see that from these dot-like structures, some green structures develop, and you actually get to see some flower kind of thing developing out of those eyes of potato, which tells you that that is the stem, because the stem is able to bear the buds and the leaves and flowers and all that. So potato is a stem. Talk about spinach. So spinach is definitely, they are the leaves, that's very evident. Think of cauliflower. So it is called cauliflower because it is actually flower of the plant. The pumpkin. So pumpkin is a fruit. So it is a fruit, quite a big fruit of a plant. And then when you talk about other fruits like apple, mango, pineapple, or even tomato. So these are all fruits of plants. In fact, that is why they are often called fruits as well. Now, the controversy is that we call apple, mango, banana, pineapple as fruits, but when it comes to tomato or when it comes to brinjal, we do not call them fruit. We categorize them as vegetables, but actually they are also fruits of some plants, whether it is capsicum or tomato or brinjal. So this way you see, all the vegetables which we eat, they are actually different parts of plants. So basically what we learned is, when you look at the different parts of the plant, many parts of the plant are edible. So the stem is edible, roots are edible, flowers edible, fruits are edible, seeds are edible. But that doesn't mean that all parts of every plant would be edible, because so you should not try out tasting any part of the plant, because many a times a lot of plant parts are extremely poisonous. So they can even cause death if consumed. So therefore you should not experiment out just trying to taste any part of the plant. But yes, there are different, it is not necessary that only fruits of plants are edible, or it is not necessary that only seeds of plants are edible. So different plants have different edible parts. So let me give you an example where you will see that for this particular plant, you have multiple parts which are edible, which are consumed. So think of the coriander plant, which is called dhania here, is more commonly in India. So this is how the coriander plant looks like. So when you look at its leaves, so the leaves of coriander are very commonly used in various dishes. So it is also used for garnishing purposes. It is also used to make pickles and chutneys. So it's very commonly used. So the leaves are edible. So we eat the leaves of coriander plant. We also eat the seeds. So if you look at its seeds, this is how it looks. And I'm sure you would have seen these in your kitchen. So they are also used in a lot of dishes. In fact, we also make spice out of it. So these seeds of coriander, they are like crushed to form a spice called the coriander powder. So the coriander powder is again a very common ingredient in preparing a lot of recipes. So you see, the same plant where leaves are also edible, seeds are also edible. So similarly, you have many other plants where multiple parts are also edible. But yes, please remember that you are not supposed to experiment out try to taste parts of unknown plants, because you never know which parts will be poisonous for your body.
If you found this video useful, if you have any feedback, let us know in the comment section. If you like the video, share it with your friends. In the next video, we are going to learn about food obtained from animals, wherein we will specifically deal with the dairy industry, the dairy animals, and also apiculture. So stay tuned.